Hello, in this video I will be reviewing the third book in the Divine Cities series, City of Miracles. So spoiler-free review, I think that this book is slightly better than the first book and kind of on the same level as the second book. So slightly better than City of Stairs and kind of perhaps on the same level as City of Blades. So this book follows Sigrud. I'm getting into spoilers now already. But this book follows Sigrud as kind of our main characters. In our first book we had Shara, in our second book we had Bulikov, and now we have Sigrud as our main character. So it's kind of, they're all characters we're introduced to in the first one, but it's just kind of changing who is the main character. And so this book opens with Shara being killed, which is obviously a bit of a kind of like a slap in the face. You're like, what? Like, you know, that's crazy, because you kind of expect that she's not going to get killed when you see the guy trying to assassinate her. So it kind of, everything takes place from there, and it's very fun to see Sigrud back in action. You know, you kind of see him at the start. He's just, you know, working on a logging crew. He's just been doing that for years, trying to blend in. But when he realizes that Shara's been killed, he's like, what the fuck? You know, I need to, you know, do something about this and get back into it. So it's fun seeing him kind of back in action. And once again, this book kind of has sort of that kind of mystery thing going on, in terms of you're learning more about the antagonist and learning a bit more about the magic system, and like things are revealed to you. Actually, just I'll caveat myself a little bit. I actually don't think this book is as good as the second book. I think the second book is the highlight of the series. And the reason I'd say that is that the villain of this book doesn't necessarily feel as strong, and it does kind of end a little bit in Deus Ex Machina. So basically, I'm going to spend the rest of this video kind of criticizing this book, but I would like to point out before I do that I really enjoyed it. Sigrud is a fantastic character. This book has a very strong emotional ending, you know, with Sigrud, you know, growing old and dying once the miracle that's in him that's kept him alive has sort of dissipated, and he grows old and dies. And I'd tell you, it's a very emotionally, you know, like I felt the ending of the book, and I was sad, and it was a good send-off to the character and to the story. And so, whatever criticism I'm about to say, I'd just like to point out that I actually really enjoyed this book. I liked the character, I liked the plot for the most part, and I loved the world, and I loved the world building, and I loved seeing this this fantasy world go from this kind of more, I want to say, not medieval, that's the wrong word, like Victorian setting, to a more like an industrial, even space age, or not space age, but like getting into this modern period. There's trains, there's, you know, cable cars, there's, you know, we're really getting into, you know, what I guess would be early 20th or mid 20th century technology. So yeah, so kind of maybe 1930s, 1940s technology, I guess. So it's really cool and really interesting, and I had a great time with it. But in terms of some of the criticisms, I think that this book's ending is a little bit... so the end is basically, as Bulikov is, you know, he's absorbed all these people, and he's, you know, he's become more and more powerful. But then we just kind of get... turns out that, you know, there's actually just a god way more powerful than him called Time, and she's really powerful when she gets back together, and boom, she just literally flicks her finger and he disappears. And it does kind of make it feel like all the characters work, and, you know, during the story. It doesn't really mean much, because they just, you know, the main character, just this other godlike character literally comes in and saves day, which is literally the definition of Deus Ex Machina. And so it does sort of feel a little bit like, well, what was the point of all of that when, you know, this super powerful entity can just come in and undo everything? And if she is so powerful and she can control time, you know, why wouldn't she do some other stuff, in terms of, you know, undoing things, or, you know, going back in time or going forward in time to, you know, to actually help things. Instead, she just gives up her power, which is kind of weird. And so I wasn't, like, super duper pumped with that. And we also have Ovos, who's one of the, you know, the former divinities, who turns out could have just killed Novikov at any time, but chooses not to because she's his son, which I guess is fine, but wouldn't he have killed lots of her other children, you know? So yeah, I'll say that, yeah, I just wasn't super duper, like, happy with kind of how that plot went. And I will say that it did kind of seem like one of those things where, like, the villain's motivation, Novikov, was, like, kind of like, I mean, to be fair to the guy, I mean, he did kind of get tortured for years, which sucks. Like, I absolutely, you know, that would not be fun. But it's kind of one of those things where you see this plot all the time, where it's like, world is bad to me, therefore I'm going to blow everything up. You know, you see this in, like, you know, James Bond movies, Iron Man movies, everything, where it's like, you know, this one or two bad things happen to me, therefore I'm going to blow up the world. And it just feels a bit sort of tired and a bit stale, and it's kind of like I've seen it before a few times, which is unfortunate. But even with all these criticisms that I've just been levying towards this book, I will say that, once again, it still has this cool setting, interesting characters, and so I still had a good time, and I still was very sad when I got to the end of it, and I still kind of had that. And for me, I guess just, this is a very subjective personal thing, but for me, that I know that I've had a good time reading a series. You know, when you get to a feeling at the end of a series, you're like, what am I going to do now? Like, it's so crazy. Like, I've just felt so invested in the series, like, what do I even do with my life now, you know? And I, you know, I got that feeling at the end of Gentlemen Bastards, and when I finished The Song of Ice and Fire, or what there is of it, you know, and I got it when I finished this as well. So I think that for me is the mark that this, despite all these criticisms, I actually still had a really great time listening to this book, and I was very engaged and very, very deeply into this series. So yeah, despite all the criticisms that I've just, you know, spent a whole video talking about, I actually had a fantastic time with the series, and I was really into it. And I thought, you know, just to conclude, the whole series is built in such a cool, interesting, unique world. I really like this idea of, you know, divinity, like one place getting gods and one place not, and what that would do to, you know, like how people feel about themselves and stuff. And I really thought that this was a unique and interesting take on the fantasy genre. Stuff that we've sort of seen before, but kind of rejigged, which is what a good story is, really, is that there's no new ideas, really, but you kind of take stuff and meld it together into one, you know, product. And like I said, kind of just waffling here, but I had a really good time with the series. So any criticisms you've seen in these videos, please just take it in context that this is actually a fantastic few books, and I had a really good time with them. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and have a great day.